Hello everyone, this is Christian Maledexaton Interactive, and in this video we are going to focus on setting up what I'm calling a routing service, which will be a sort of singleton service that we can use to pass to all of our components and views so that we can then communicate that we wish to navigate to a different view, and that communication will happen again from any component, any view, to a component we're going to call the router outlet. So for example, if we have in our About view, when it's mounted, I'm making a call to say that I wish to navigate to the home view. The router outlet is then going to receive that request, and for now it's just going to console log that request. So if we refresh, I'm on the home page. If I refresh, we will see that in the console log, the router outlet is saying that it received that request to go to the home view. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started here. So the first thing we're going to do is just a quick update to our TS-lint configuration here. And that's being that I like to use leading underscores for private variables inside of just regular TypeScript files. So we're going to allow that before I start getting little errors. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is in our source components, I've already created it. We have a routing folder here. I'm going to create a new file inside of it. We're going to call that route-entry.ts. Alright, so inside of that, let's just copy some stuff here. So we need to bring in the view constructor, and route config from view router. So what we're doing here is basically creating a route entry which will take care of holding all the configuration information for a route. So if we look inside of a route, or the route file, which is being imported to provide all of our routing, we can see that inside of it, so we have a router being created, and then it has a property of routes, and inside of that, or it's an array of route configuration objects. So we want to create an object that has at least all of those available to it. So the first thing I'm going to do, so there is a type involved, and it's defined somewhere within view. I can't find it. Took about 5 seconds looking for it, and then just decided I would just write my own. So what we want is a promise type, and type of, what is it? Type of, no. So let's write this correctly. Import, and it's view. Alright, so that will need that type. In order to create our route entry object, I want to specify what's required, and we're going to do that with an interface. Export interface route entry config, and I've just stumbled upon a convention that if I end something with config, it generally means that it's used in creation of the object. So we need to have inside of there a component. So that component is either a view constructor, view, or it's a view promise function. So if you hover over this component within the definition for the router.ts file, you can see that the component can actually be a ton of different things. For now, this is all we're going to need here. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, get some more space. So we have a component. We'll be requiring our routes to have names, and of course we have to have a path. So now we'll export our class route entry and private read-only component, and that component is the same here. Probably overkill to create a type that would union those or those things together there. And private read-only name string, whoops, private read-only path string. Perfect. So we're going to deviate, modify those notes here in a bit here. So the only time I really need that information though is, let's create a public getter config route config, and then we need to say that it's going to return the object, and that's going to return a component, this component, the name, this name, and the path. So of course, well, no, I was going to say something, but I'm changing things up. I used to have the getters that had, public getters to get these components here. We are going to need probably all getters except for, shouldn't need to get the, forget it. Why worry about it? So let's do public get component, which returns this dot component. So we have access to the component. Now, why we're going to need it, I don't know. But we will in the future need the others, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and add it. So name, turn this dot name, and public get path. So since we have these getters on here, it's actually, we could potentially just pass this object through as the route configuration object. And I've done that, I think maybe in the test for this thing. And then I've accidentally used a name or something that conflicted with view and things stopped working. So I'm just going to explicitly return a configuration object that we specify what all's involved with it. So now that we have that, we need our constructor. We're going to take in our config, which is our outright entry config, and just set the things, right? Component, config.component, this.name, config.name, and this.path. All right, so now I think we're good to go on our route entry. So in order to be able to tell which route we're talking about without just using strings for everything, we're going to go back to our routing folder again, new file. I'm just going to call it types.ts. Inside of types.ts for now, we'll just have this enum. And of course, the only routes that we have is about and home. Let's go ahead and save that and close it. Now we're going to use basically an object to communicate between our the views and components that need to to invoke some routing, and a router outlet that we will create shortly. So let's go to the routing folder, new file, and routing service.ts. All right, so what we need is a few things here. So let me just copy these. I hate dealing with default imports. And we're also going to need import from components / routing / route entry. And we want the route entry from that. And then we're going to import from the same components / routing / routes. So we need types. All right, so perfect. So what we'll do is first off is import home, and that's from /view /home.view. Now if we take a look once again at the router.ts file that's providing all of our routing information right now, we have this call to view.useRouter. So we're going to copy that over into our routing service here. And now we need to define our routes. So we have const home, and that's equal new route entry. And inside of there, the component is just home. Right. Name is home. And the path is the route. So We have that one. Now we need the about, const about, new route entry. So this component though is the, should have left the thing open, right? So router.ts. So what we're doing, of course, in the component is saying home, so it's loaded automatically. When we set the component equal to a function that returns a promise of a component, then we're doing this, as this note is indicating here, is that Webpack creates a separate chunk for this view that is loaded on demand, right? So that's what we're doing here. Same deal, except we have to modify the path, relative to where we are. Name is about, and the path for it is /about. So we have the two routes that we've already had defined. Now it's time to create our actual class. So export class routing service. And let's create a mapping, read-only routes. It's a map between routes and route entries. Perfect. And we can actually, of course, go ahead and populate it. So we have routes.about, which is about, and we have routes.home, which is home. So we have the mapping there. Let's use it a few times here. So let's do private read-only values, and that's just array.from, no capital, from this routes.values. Give us an array to work with. And let's go ahead and create a private read-only router. And that's equal to new router. So we're going to just create the router that was created previously, right? So we had, this is the router definition. So we have a mode, base, and the routes. So in our case, the base is just process.env.base URL. Mode is history. I want that little hashtag floating around. And our routes are this.values.map. We just need to then do the right thing, config. So we have a new router. We're going to need access to it. So public get router will return this._router. Perfect. Now, in order to make use of this, close that now. We will go into our main.ts file here. And this is the point in which, like I said, the routing is being imported. So we're going to actually delete that, and we can just do some stuff here. Import from, and that's at /components /routing routing service and routing service. Perfect. So let's create a new routing service, const routing service. Perfect. And so fix our little squiggly here. The router is now equal to routing service.router. We're also, like I said, we're going to use this routing service throughout our application, and to do that, we will add it to the provide definition here of routing service. And now we'll have it available throughout our application. Let's go ahead and close this, close this. If we take a look at app, so app.view has this router view. So that's the component that Vue is using to stuff our views into when we change the routes. We're going to wrap that thing there. So back to our routing folder, change new file, and we'll call it the router outlet.view. So the template's easy, right? We're just taking the router view and putting it here and giving a CSS class, right? And then we'll just do a empty class component here, and just a tiny bit of styling just to make the router view height. We'll maybe have to fix some styling once we start getting into it, but that'll be good for now. Let's go ahead and save that. So now back to the app.view file here. What we'll do is import that. So import router outlet, and that's from component / routing / router outlet.view. Let's come down here and register it, router outlet, and now we can make that to be router outlet with a self-closing link. Let's go ahead and save that. And as hope, nothing has changed. Everything's working still just fine here. So next up, we will, return to the routing service. So I said we need a way to communicate that we want to make a route change. And like I said, we're doing it through the routing service. So it's going to involve us using, as usual, RxJS, and we're just going to need the subject. So inside of our routing service, we'll just create a private read-only navigate, which is going to be our subject, new subject, and it's going to be of type. So give me the enum, and we'll route to it. To do that, we're going to have to allow, some other things. In this case, our router outlet to listen in for these route requests. So we'll create an observable, which is this dot navigate as observable. So we have that. We need to allow people to subscribe to it. So we're going to do that by public get navigate with our little $sign there. And then lost track of what I was doing. We'll just return this dot navigate. So perfect. Let's do two things here. One, we'll create a method called complete that can be used. The only goal there, or only need, is then to say navigate.complete. So when we complete the subject, that will basically complete all of the observables listening to it. And then we need a way to say that I want to navigate. So we'll create another method, navigate to, and to routes. And this is just going to use a subject, say next, pass in to. So anything that might be listening will then get that. So we're going to need to, we'll need access to a lot of these things in order to make everything work from our consumers. So what we'll do is make that easier to do by going to our routing folder and creating an index.ts file. I'm just going to copy these in. So we're just going to export route entry, routing service, and the types file, or everything inside of it. So we are now able to get all of that. And I guess we're going to start with the about view here. So let's create us a little component here. And let's do script with TypeScript. And we're going to use the class version of everything. So let's just delete that. So we're bringing in everything that we need for the class part of it. And we're bringing in the routes and the routing service from our basically index file there. So let's create our component. That component, export, default, class, about, extends view, capital view. I need to fix that so it stops complaining about, or it stops trying to do two spaces for my Not 2 spaces. I'm a 4 spaces kind of person here. See, we got it now. All right. So what we need is to have the routing service. So that again we use by injecting it. So private read-only routing service. It's going to be handled for us, and it's of type routing service. Perfect. Just to make sure that everything's working for the moment, what we'll do is just say on mounted this dot routing service dot navigate to routes dot home. Save that. Of course, nothing's going to happen right now because nothing is listening for our routing changes. So back to our router outlet, and we will need to do the same with the inject here. And we also need the same imports from routing. So now we're free to, again, just copy, you saw me do it once, inject in the routing service. And what I'll do is say private before destroy. So the router outlet is going to exist for the entire time our application is around. So once it's being destroyed, what we'll do is then call this.routingservice.complete. We'll just have it take care of completing, and then that will take care of all of the observables, anybody who might be listening to the route changes. And now what we'll do is just say private created, and inside of here this dot routing service dot navigate observable dot subscribe. For the moment we'll just console log what we're being told, console log routes and X being an entry within the routes enumerable. So we'll go ahead and save that. Get a little error down here to start with, but let's just refresh the page, and what we'll see is that, so in the console we're getting the router outlet to print out home, because again, of course, when about is mounted, it's saying that it wants to navigate to home. The router outlet is then receiving that navigation request and console logging it. So I think that'll take care of it for this video. Again, what we've done is basically created a way for us to communicate from any of our components throughout the application to our router outlet, which will be sort of the single area which will make routing happen, so that we can coordinate the animations that we want to have happen along with route navigations. But we'll start, I think we'll basically have most of that set up in the next video. But until then, I will talk to you later. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. I know that your time is valuable. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and click the thumbs up button, as well as share the video with your friends. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. And once again, thank you, and I will talk to you in the next video.